If you have a cistern that was built after 1980, chances are you may have one of these floating intakes inside your cistern. There's a replaceable filter element that's made out of like a cotton batting with wire mesh around it, and it's hooked up to a flexible 1.25 inch pipe like this. And here I'm going to show you how to get rid of this old contraption and replace it with a stainless steel floating intake filter that you never have to clean or replace the filter element on. The reason that we try to replace these is that really you don't need a filter on your floating intake. The filter is not the important part of the floating intake system. It's the actual float that's important. And the reason for that is you want your intake on your pump to float and suspend below the top of the water level, but above the bottom of the water level. So you want to draw water in your cistern from towards the middle of your water tank, and that's where water is going to be the cleanest, because in the middle you're avoiding heavy sediment, which is going to settle to the bottom, and you're avoiding light sediment, which is going to float to the top. So what we're doing here is we're removing this top piece of the floating intake filter, and we're removing it from the brass check valve. Now, you may have a different setup than this, but we see this configuration the most frequently. So I'm unthreading that PVC fitting and taking off those fiberglass caps and the float and exposing the 1.25 inch check valve, the brass check valve there that has 1.25 inch threading. Now that's 1.25 inch male thread. I'm going to put Teflon tape on there. 3 wraps is a good rule of thumb. And we want to make sure that there's still a check valve in the system, and that's what that brass piece is that I just put Teflon tape on. That check valve is important. We want to make sure that the pump doesn't blow out the water pressure in the system back through the intake. So that check valve is going to hold water pressure in the suction line for your pump. Now I threaded on a 1.25 inch barbed adapter, so it has 1.25 inch female threads to 1.25 inch barbs. And then I'm heating up a short piece of our Tigerflex 1.25 inch Tigerflex pipe, but I'm just heating it up slightly to soften the end of the pipe. And it also helps to dip the pipe in some water to help lubricate it. And this is going to slide onto the barbed adapter. It's a little tricky. Push it, twist it, push, twist, push and twist. And then once it's on there, we use 1.25 inch hose clamps, and we'll slide it on and tighten it down with a 5/16 hex head driver. And then on the other side, we're going to install the floating intake filter itself. And again, I'm using a propane torch to soften that pipe. Get it just heated enough just to soften it. We don't want to melt it. Dip that barb fitting into the water. And this is our Vizzy or YZ coarse floating intake filter. And then we're going to use, again, another 1.25 inch hose clamp to tighten that Tigerflex down. And we have the new floating intake filter installed.